Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. Today is August 12th, 2025. Barring medical emergencies, we get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. So with that being said, let's take a look at the shared screen. We have our nonprofit website in the background. You all should see it, 509pacific.org. On it, it really tells our story. But before I get over to that and the rest of the agenda, let's look at the notes here. So we have our website, which we're on, our text support line, not phone support line, but text support line, because no one answers this normally. Our office number is at the bottom here. But as far as tech support line, 903-347-8042. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We've received a grant. The grant has three mandates. It's to build financial literacy, give away free shelf corps, and facilitate the infusion of capital into small businesses. That's what we do. At the middle of the page has information about being a participant and taking advantage of that. At the bottom of the page, it's about being a referral partner. But at the top of the page, it talks about QuickCash, and we're going to talk about how it might be a resource to you that you hadn't considered. We've had other trainings on it, so I'm not being redundant, but we want to talk about ways it could be used. So with that, we're on today's agenda. I quickly went through number one, so let's get to number two, and then we'll go ahead and we'll go through Q&A, whether it be on this topic or other topics. Okay, so we need to understand what QuickCash is. It's not too good to be true. We've had quite a few discussions over the past couple of weeks on asset-based lending. And I believe, and what I'm seeing is it's often the best way to help clients get funding. What I'm seeing in most cases, it's a better option than even SBA loans. But we've had other trainings on that, and you'll find, for instance, here, more training on ABL. Well, QuickCash looks a little bit like ABL, but it's different. So with QuickCash, we're solving a problem. And that's what you and I do. We're entrepreneurs. We solve people's problems. And frankly, you and I make a shitload of money by solving people's problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. So we solve the problem when people are needing money, a smaller amount, not a large amount. If they want a larger amount, we need to get them into a free shelf corp, build out the loan package, and get them qualified for 100,000 plus. QuickCash is not meant to do that, although you could stack them. But QuickCash is meant for a smaller amount. So the way, and the nice thing about QuickCash is it's not a loan. And I think you all know that because we've had the trainings on what QuickCash is. But what I want to talk to you for a few minutes is about how maybe you're overlooking how to leverage it and how to monetize it. So leverage, for example, I was just on a phone with a client right before the Zoom this morning, and we were reviewing his credit profile. Now, again, if we do asset-based lending, we don't even have to worry about credit, but he's pretty focused on an SBA loan against our better advice. But regardless, so with his credit, we looked at what's causing the credit score to be low. He's around 610, 612 FICO. And there's really two primary causes. He's been great with his payment history, but his revolving utilization is high, and then he has an excessive number of inquiries. Well, we have the legal team and the credit sweep, and we can take the inquiries off, but you and I know inquiries only account for 10% of the credit score. So using our algorithms, we don't think that he's going to get to where he needs to be for an SBA loan by just taking the 9 inquiries off in the past 6 months. So it's really that high revolving utilization. And I think you probably will see that often. People have high revolving utilization. Not everyone, but it's common. So really there are 3 ways that we normally would address, 3 options that we present to the client so they can choose from of how to address high utilization, and QuickCash is one of those. The other would be to move the debt from revolving to installments. In other words, get a new installment loan. So it doesn't make the debt go away, but it's moving it from being revolving to installment, and that automatically removes or eliminates the revolving utilization. And so there are some lenders we work with that specialize in that. So that's a good option. Another option would be, let's go make some more money and make enough money to pay down their credit cards, because that kind of fits with what we all do as entrepreneurs. And if a client doesn't have their own arrow in their quiver, they don't have a way to go make a lot of money quickly, then they can go do what you and I do, and they can either run a branch, which is a bigger deal, or just simply be a reseller for a month and earn extra income. So that's the second option. First option is to move it from revolving to installment. Second question is, let's go make some extra money. They can make money however they make money. If they don't have a way to make money, then they can do it the way you and I do as a reseller or branch office. The third option is the QuickCash, and the QuickCash is attractive because the first option of paying down your revolving debt by getting new installment debt, again, doesn't make the debt go away. Might make the payments lower, improves the credit score, but it's still there. So that has pros and cons. Going out and doing what you and I do and helping people and make money is fine, but that takes time and effort. Not everyone has time and or effort to put into it. The QuickCash is really the most passive way. We can transfer the QuickCash to them, and then they can use the proceeds as they decide. It's not a loan, and it's unrestricted funds. So when we talk about kind of innovative or ways to leverage QuickCash, QuickCash could be used to have money to buy a shelf corp from you. And I know we give the shelf corps away, but there's a processing fee and you determine what that is. QuickCash could be used to buy collateral. If they have a collateral shortfall, QuickCash could be used to pay down credit card debt, like we talked about. So it's kind of a Swiss Army knife where that money can be used however the client determines. But I think some of you are overlooking this as an option. So as far as the second side of the equation, some of you, Selena's one, and others are wanting to mark up the QuickCash to make money. So the way QuickCash works is the grant is providing the QuickCash. The grant is providing the $20,000 of accounts receivables. And if, again, you're not familiar with the intricacies of QuickCash, there's a training here, and of course the packet. You should look at both. But the point is, we can use QuickCash as another revenue stream for you if you would like, because there is a processing fee that they're paying, and we can provide you, like we've done Selena and others, an editable version of the QuickCash agreement. You can change the pricing the way that you want. And just like with the shelf corps, for those of you that are distribution partners, anything you mark it up is your profit. So for instance, we have a new referral group through Ben. Let's see if Ben's on this morning. Ben is. And so his group is bundling. And so his group, and I don't know the numbers exactly, but I believe his group is selling the shelf corp for 10,000. That's approximately correct. I might be a little bit off, but 10,000 is a significant markup, and they're going to probably have 3 to 5 enrollments this week in their first week. QuickCash, you can mark up as well if you want, but you don't make money off of QuickCash, as we're talking about monetizing, by just sending people to our website, because then they're going to sign up here and just pay whatever we charge, kind of the basic base processing fee. So instead, you would want to text us and say, hey, I want to go sell QuickCash as a markup. Text us, let us know, no cost, no problem. We'll send you an editable version of the QuickCash packet. You can change the pricing to your desire. Client signs it with you, and then you keep everything of the markup. So I don't think I clearly stated that you all can sell QuickCash and mark it up if you want. So let me see if there's any questions on that before we move on. Yeah, and if anyone has individual questions on their specifics, I can't really handle that as well here in a group format, but just text us. So Jack had a question about his enrollment, which is fine, but text us, Jack, and we can address that individually. Okay, so with that being said, I want to move over to number 3, which is maybe the most important thing that we can cover. And I see Selena and Kiva have a couple similar questions. So let's go into different topics now. We're going to talk about the 2 phases of the capital raise. So again, we're moving off of QuickCash. We are not talking about QuickCash now. We're actually more so on business funding. So let's make sure that we're all on the same page, and then we'll answer those questions. So the first phase, the first contract. So we'll even clarify that. So there's 2 contracts. The first of which is where the client enrolls in the Shelf Corp. That happens with you, right? So we provide you an editable version of the client agreement. You change with take our information off, put your information on, change pricing the way you want. Kind of similar to what I said on QuickCash, but right now we're talking about business funding, and you determine how much profit you make. So for the first phase, the first contract, it's between you and the client. You use the editable template, put your information on, you set pricing. So that's number 1. So I know that's not the question, Selena, but we got to start with that. So that's how people start. The analogy we used yesterday, which a number of you liked, is let's imagine that we're home builders. Well, before we build a home for a client, we need a piece of land, right? You have to have land to build a home. Therefore, the Shelf Corp serves as the land, and then we can use that land as our foundation to build a home, or in this case, use the Shelf Corp to build a fundable business. All right, so then we get to and I think everyone's good on number 1. That's not what her question was. But number 2 is the second phase. And so we have what we call access to capital. So what that looks like is once the client receives their Shelf Corp deliverables, normally in about 7 days, then we send an email to the client. We should be copying you, and it has their initial Shelf Corp deliverables, and also it has what's called a funding proposal. Now, the funding proposal includes the access to capital. I'm abbreviating, same thing I wrote here. So it includes the access to capital terms and conditions. No secrets, no gotchas, but it spells out, hey, if you want to take that Shelf Corp that we provided you, we will help you go get funding now. And so it has a number of things that's great for the client. We guarantee a minimum of $100,000 capital raise. We not guarantee, well, I guess guarantee, that's fine. We guarantee 100% client satisfaction. So the second phase is between us and the client, where the first contract, the first phase is between you and the client. The Access to Capital program has no upfront cost, not a penny, no upfront cost. Does that mean it's free? No, I didn't say it's free. It's not free, but there's no upfront cost. So instead, this is where the client is agreeing to pay 10% performance fee. Some people call that a success fee. Real easy to understand. So once the client gets funded, we invoice them, they pay 10%. That's how we're paid. And we pay that out 5% to you. So that's how you're getting the back end money. I don't think there's a surprise on that. So again, if you've not read this agreement, you should, because then you'd understand what I'm saying. Also, there is a refundable deposit. There is a refundable deposit. but it is not paid out of pocket. It's from the first tranche. So when the client gets their first round of funding, they are agreeing to pay the refundable deposit. But what is that all about? So let's break that down into more detail. So what is this refundable deposit all about, which it's in phase 2? Well, the refundable deposit is $2,500. It's paid out of the first tranche. It's reimbursed after the client reaches 100,000 capital raise. Well, why is that? Well, first of all, why do we need a refundable deposit? They already paid for the shelf corp. Well, yeah, but the shelf, well, they technically don't pay for it. They pay a processing fee, but regardless, they have an outlay. Well, the shelf corp deliverables are getting them the shelf corp. It's getting them the land, not to build a house, right? You couldn't go find an open lot, and let's say you buy a lot for 50,000. You pay the 50,000, you say, where the fuck's my house? Where's my house? This is just a piece of land. Right. They get a shelf corp, which is needed to move on to go get business funding. But you don't buy a lot and say, where's my house? You have to build a structure or bring one in if it's modular. So the refundable deposit is building the loan package. Because while the shelf corp is a fundable shelf corp, there's no bait and switch, there's no misunderstanding, but it's not all optimized based upon what the client wants to do. Now we're going to take in phase 2, we're going to take that shelf corp and start building all the paperwork. So loan package, think of it as lender compliant paperwork. So now we need to look at what the client wants. How much money do they want? What are they going to use it for? And building out the loan package. Loan package is an industry term that's credible. It's normal. If you're not familiar with it, don't dismiss it. It's just your financial, forgive me, ignorance. It's not that we're doing something crazy. This is what it's called in the industry, loan packaging. So loan packaging is normally a $5,000 to $10,000 cost in the marketplace, and it's usually not refundable. So in our case, number one, we don't ask them to pay it up front. We don't ask them to pay it out of pocket. It comes out of the first round. And we guarantee everyone, let's go ahead and add that. We guarantee that every applicant will get financing from the first tranche at least enough to pay the refundable deposit. So you could bring a client in that has horrible credit or whatever issues they may have, but everyone will get at least enough financing from the first tranche, the first round, to cover that so they don't have to pay it out of pocket. Now, if they want to pay it out of pocket, they can. It's still refundable. So, Selena, I want to banter with you a bit. So what about what we just said, Selena, doesn't make sense? Or what about this is well, to Selena or anyone else, we have 546 of you on, what's questionable about this? Because it makes perfect sense. This is where we're building their house on their lot. And it comes down to the agreements. So sure, we could combine these two if you want. And that's when I mentioned Ben a moment ago, that's what his group is doing. His group is combining 1 and 2 into one agreement. That's fine, but that increases the price, because what Ben's doing is his group is collecting the cost for the shelf corp processing fee, and his team is collecting the refundable deposit up front out of pocket of the client, because he has a more kind of highbrow clientele. A lot of people can't afford that. So what we normally do is we break it into 2 steps, 2 phases, 2 contracts. You're just responsible for getting them into the shelf court. Then we deliver the shelf court deliverables in about 7 days. At that point, we provide them the funding proposal with the access to capital terms and conditions. They fill out the finance app. Everybody gets at least one offer. Everybody gets enough financing to pay the refundable deposit. Refundable deposit allows us to build a loan package, and then they get that back after they raise 100,000. So, Selena, does that make sense to you? Let's see if I missed it anywhere. Okay, so Selena's got a follow-up. So everyone will get, let's go back to what I said here. So this is a true statement. Everyone that fills out the funding proposal will get at least one offer. Now, a lot of people will get many offers, but everyone will get at least one offer. Now, people want examples, and we've had some trainings. We've had people that received over 100,000 of offers in the first tranche. We've had people that have even received over 200,000, but that's not what I'm trying to convey. It's going to be individually underwritten based upon the app that's submitted. So I'm not here to promise something crazy. The first tranche isn't meant to be the final tranche. It's an initial tranche designed to put some working capital, some seed capital in the client's pocket and cover the refundable deposit so we can go build the loan package. So the offers they get will vary. It might be a term loan. It might be a line of credit. No, it's typically not credit cards. It might be a little, it might be a lot. But with that, everyone will get offers, at least one offer. Most people will get multiple offers. So when Kiva was asking, Kiva is an example of someone that received one offer, because everyone receives at least one offer. And so the terms and conditions of each offer is determined by the lender. And until we apply, we don't know what offers an individual will get. But the nice thing is, if a person fills out the funding proposal and then they don't like the offers that they've been extended, they don't have to accept any of them. Now, Kiva's was 0%, pretty hard to beat. But with that being said, they don't have to accept any of the offers if they don't like them. Now, they do need to pay the refundable deposit so we can build the loan package to go qualify for that large capital raise. Because I think that's maybe what was missing in some of your understanding. You thought, well, if someone gets a shelf court, they buy the land in that example, then it's going to be ready to move in. Well, no, it's a piece of land. It's a blank slate, but it's what we need to construct the house. We need a fundable business infrastructure to go get funding. And the funding comes in the second phase, the second contract. All right, so I think we addressed the concern there. As far as when you read the access to capital agreement, it'll make reference. I have a commitment. I have a personal moral conviction, but I have a commitment. I've got to tell you the truth and how it works. But I don't want you to think that in the past 24 minutes that I've told you every word of every paragraph in the contract. No, I've encouraged you, read the damn contract. But yeah, it's going to tell the client there is no upfront cost. It says that. Some people will be mad. Well, why are they charging me $2,500 upfront? Well, it's not. It's not. It just says you agree to pay a refundable deposit. You agree to pay it out of the first tranche. If you don't want to use our tranches, then pay it out of pocket. That's going to allow us to build the loan package. The $2,500 comes back to you, and we guarantee a minimum of 100,000, but we can do a lot more than that if that's what they want. So everything matches. It's just some of you are so busy, and frankly, so you make so much money doing your other things that you kind of skim by. And I would encourage you, read the 2 contracts because it tells the story. They're fair, they're a good deal, they're legal, they're compliant, they're not predatory. There's an agreement for a client to get a shelf court from you. You control that. If you don't like the words on the page, you don't like the pricing, change it. Change any and all of it. It's up to you. And then on the second agreement, that's the agreement we do with them. And then that's the access to capital with the funding proposal. And that's what allows you to get your back end fees. Because if we didn't do this, the client won't have a loan package. And if client didn't have a loan package, they're not going to get business finance. All right, so let's see what other questions we have here that are not duplicative. So Kiva, did that make sense to you? And Selena, did I address your questions? Because again, that's exactly what we want to be doing in these sessions, is address those. All right, Brian asked a question about the 2,500 deposit. So again, we don't ask them to pay it out of pocket. They could, but we guarantee that they'll get enough financing for that. With the $2,500 refundable deposit, that allows us to go ahead and build the loan package. So let's go back. Brian's asking about timing. So let's go back to the analogy of the lot. So you're a real estate agent and you sold someone a lot. Great. They have the piece of land. No question about it. It's in their name. It's their land. But they really want to build a house on the land. Okay, so now we're going to need to figure out what type of house does that person want. Do they want a modular home that we pull in behind a truck? Do they want a one-story, a two-story? How many square feet? What do they want? So that's the design of a house. And you're in my world, we need to figure out what kind of funding they want. So one of the first things that we do once they pay the refundable deposit, which doesn't have to be paid out of pocket, it's paid out of financing normally, and we guarantee everyone enough financing to cover it, so no one's left behind. One of the first things that we do then, Brian and everyone else, is we put together their uses of funds. And we have an intake form that we use for that. We've had a training on that, so we've gone through it together. So the intake form tells us, okay, how much capital do they want? And some people get frustrated. Well, I thought it was 100,000. Well, that's the minimum. They might want more, right? If they want more, I don't think you or I should stand in their way and say, no, you don't get what you want. So we ask them in an organized fashion how much they want and what they're going to use it for. And again, that's analogous to what kind of house do you want? Do you want a log cabin? Do you want cement blocks? Do you want stucco? Do you want brick? We've got to know what they want so we can build the plan to get their capital raise. If you don't think that, you're oversimplifying this. And it's not a problem, but we need to know where we're going. And then we can build out the loan package. He's asking about the time frame. Well, normally, and again, I was in the hospital last week, but that's all behind us. But normally, within a day or two from the time that they pay the refundable deposit, which they don't have to pay it out of pocket, we get everyone financing. We've covered that several times. Normally, we'll get right away over to them the intake form, which helps us figure out the uses of funds, and then we need to build everything else. So the time frame, I think some of you, and I know from your perspective, you probably would disagree, but I think some of you are too consumed with the time frame. So of course the client wants funding as soon as possible. So do I. So do you. That's how we're all paid, right? That's why the performance fee is an important element, because it puts all of us with aligned incentives. But if someone wants to build a 6,000-foot mansion on that lot that we gave them, it's going to take longer in many cases than pulling in a mobile home or a modular home from Palm Harbor or Clayton Homes. So how long it's going to take is going to depend upon where we're going with that client and their mitigating circumstances. So it's just, and Brian's very sophisticated, but some people, they're not used to finance. They're not used to big dollars. And to them, it's like they should just be able to roll dice like you're playing Yahtzee and you immediately get a result. We've got to create a plan. And the key is to getting the client fundable, because none of this is bullshit. None of this is too good to be true. And some people come to us and that's what they want. We have people that come to us all the time and they want to scam. We're not a scam, but they want something too good to be true. The way that clients get business funding is they have to have a fundable business that qualifies for what they want. And that's what we're experts in. So But in general, our goal would be in 30 days or less from the time that they're in phase two, that we've been able to, of course, get them at least their first round of funding, and in many cases complete the capital raise. But there's not a bank or credit union or lender in the United States or in the world that follows some clock. They don't care about the clock. They care about, is the client fundable? And that's what you and I do. That's the skills that we bring to the table. All right, let's see. Yeah, and Kenny brings up a good point. So Kenny's got several clients, and one of his clients has, as we've gone through this, has changed what he wanted. Originally, Kenny's client wanted the minimum 100,000, but we had a call with the client and Kenny and their CFO and a number of people yesterday, and now the client wants $1 million. Not because we're trying to upsell the client, but there's just a process. What do you want in your house? I want 2 bathrooms. Are you sure you only want 2 bathrooms? Would it be nice to have a bathroom downstairs that your guests could use? Oh, sure, I want 2.5 bathrooms. So a lot of times through our consultative discussion, we can refine what they want in their capital raise. And a lot of times it becomes larger, and that's good for the client. And it's really good for you because you're paid off that performance fee. Ryan asked, is there a minimum credit score to get funding for the first tranche? And I'm glad you asked that, Ryan. And the answer is absolutely no. Absolutely no. Because what have I said? What I've said is every person will get at least one offer from the first tranche. So if what I'm saying is true, which it is, then there can't be some minimum credit score, or what I said wouldn't be true. So everyone's going to get at least one offer. Now, to no surprise, the stronger the credit, the more offers they're going to have, and probably the bigger offers. But regardless, there is no minimum credit scores. All right, let's see. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Landers ask about speeding up the process. And so that is true. And that's frankly what Ben's doing. So again, what Ben's group's doing is they're collecting the processing fee for the Shelf Corp up front and collecting the 2,500 up front. So his first client came over yesterday. And so certainly, yeah, you're taking steps out of the process. So if you want to accelerate it, we could take steps out of the process by the client paying more up front. The problem with that is many of you aren't like Ben. Many of you are not really good at sales. Many of you are not really good at pitching. Many of you are not good at closing. And a lot of you work with downtrodden clients that if you bundled a bunch of stuff together, they couldn't afford it. So normally that's not a good option. For Ben, it's a perfect option. For some of you, it's fine. But the best way is to stick, for most of you, is to stick with the norm. Just help people get into the Shelf Corp. We'll take it from there. That's what I would recommend for most of you. But yes, you certainly, if you wanted to collect the processing fee for the Shelf Corp and collect the refundable deposit up front, that would make it go faster. But that's not really the design of the program. We don't want people to pay that out of pocket. We want them to pay it out of the first tranche, and everyone's guaranteed a first tranche. All right. Well, I think we covered a fair amount. Don't know if we covered everything. Chris has got a question we'll close on with the asset-based lending. So asset-based lending is a type of funding. It's not a different program. So clients would still get the Shelf Corp. We would still get them their initial tranche. They would still pay the refundable deposit. We would build their loan package, but it may be, where's the loan package, but it may be that we see the client is best suited for the ABL, which is fine. If you're not familiar with it, go back and watch that training that I'm highlighting here. So the asset-based lending is great because it does make it quicker because there's less underwriting involved. An asset-based loan is underwritten based upon the collateral, and we provide the collateral. So you're absolutely correct, Chris. That's a faster route to funding. and it also has no restricted funds. So I would agree with that. And if you all aren't familiar with ABL, it doesn't really affect you, because what is your role? Unless you're a bin or an outlier, what you all should be doing is educating and giving away these shelf corps. Let us take care of number three. There's a lot of moving parts, and I don't know that you're properly trained or supported to handle number three, but you certainly should be able to knock it out of the park with one and two. We'll handle the back office, and you're paid off of number three. We're not cutting you out of the revenue, but we're making your life simpler. Okay, final question. Kiva's asking about the link for QuickCash. So it's here, Kiva. So anyone that needs QuickCash, 509pacific.org. There's the training that we ask you to view and the QuickCash packet to participate. It's here, so it's very transparent. All right, thanks everyone. Hopefully we covered both the immediate topic and other topics as well. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Bye-bye.